So this is the first time I'm doing a review like this, or a review in general. So any feedback is valued. Thank you. Also, like, subscribe, blah blah blah, notification bell, all that stuff, so I can get motivated to do more stuff like this. And I know I'm gonna need a lot of it. So here's a review to eat dinner to. Sonic Frontiers. Where do we start? Before we go into Frontiers, let's talk about the time during the release of the previous Sonic games. The 2010s of the Sonic the Hedgehog era were something that started off promising with back-to-back amazing titles like Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations, but one misstep from Sega, like always, with the Nintendo Wii U deal, caused them to lose a lot. I mean, a lot of money with the mixed reception of Sonic Lost World and the abysmal Sonic Boom games. Didn't help much that was on the Wii U too. Sonic Boom became the worst selling Sonic title, and after its release, Sega reformed and fired most of its employees. 2015 didn't receive a new Sonic game besides a mobile game, Sonic Runners, that was removed from the App Store after a year. And this is where the Sonic franchise became very scarce in terms of releasing games. 2016 saw the 25th anniversary of Sonic, where the only games released were Boom, Fire and Ice, and Lego Dimension Sonic Back. But at the 25th anniversary party, two new Sonic games for 2017 were announced. A 2D classic game called Sonic Mania, and a new 3D modern Sonic game called Sonic Forces. I was excited and played both of these games on release. Mania became my favorite Sonic game ever, and I was really happy I got a game like it. The reception towards Mania was really positive, and it became the highest rated Sonic game in 15 years. Well, let me check that. Yeah, I'm not surprised. November saw the release of Sonic Forces, a game in which I admittedly like, but probably did because I haven't played Generation in years at the time. Now, I just think Forces is okay, but way too short of a game. As for the fan and critical reception, it was eh. Just eh. The game wasn't bad per se, but it wasn't great either. It was just average. Painfully average to some. And when you wait 4 years for a modern Sonic game, you know an average score means unbearable disappointment. I don't hate on Forces as much as the next guy, but because most of its problems come from the fact that actual level development took 13 months, while the new Hedgehog Engine 2, that's also used in Frontiers, took 3 years to make for new consoles. Not only that, there were only 3 level designers for Forces, 2 being completely new to working for the series, and one who only previously worked on Lost World, which isn't a boost game if I recall. Most of the Sonic team who worked from the series from Unleashed to Lost World have left, and the most notable that stayed are Morio Kishimoto and Takashi Iizuka. Right after Forces, Sonic Team went to work on a new formula after having done mostly boost games since 2005. Or 2008, if you count Sonic Unleashed as that. I don't know. I like Sonic Rush more. Some speculated it would be a new open world game that people wanted from the franchise for a long time, but we wouldn't know the answer for years. 2018 saw Sonic Mania Plus, 2019 Team Sonic Racing, and the new decade of Sonic started off with no game once again, possibly due to the Purple Haze virus. Thanks, Fugo. Only the Sonic movie released this year, in 2020, being positively received, which gave the team a push of encouragement to work really hard on the new game. Sadly, this year for Sonic news was practically non-existent, with the only information we got were leaks, and it wasn't a great time for people that wanted at least one piece of new information regarding anything new with the series. We waited, 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 and waited until May 2021, when we got Sonic Central, a video that resembles the Nintendo Direct and gives news towards the future of Sonic. And that's where we got our first look at the new Sonic game, Sonic Frontiers. teaser trailer for Frontiers really didn't give us that much information on what the game was. Sonic is running through a forest, whoop-de-doo, gets attacked by some missiles, activates a power that would be used in the main game for different purposes, but here he just boosts, and creates a mysterious symbol that I've seen people not understand, even when finishing the game, but we'll get there. Heck, looking back now, there was no way people could have gotten this symbol's meaning down. I see people saying it meant Zap? It was supposed to look like Sonic? Man, were we off. We had nothing to go off of. How are we supposed to find out what the heck this was? Okay. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh. It's just a teaser, Blora. Calm down. The next trailer for Frontiers came at the Game Awards, and we saw a glimpse of the open world this game had to offer, and I had conflicting views. The positives being a Sonic game where you can run in an open world, wow! But my opposite views were of, wow, this really does look like Sonic thrown in Breath of the Wild. Sonic has been in realistic settings, but there weren't any Sonic elements shown. No loops, rails, all of that. Also, a huge boss shows its leg at the end. This was only an early trailer, so I still had my hopes up. Here comes the month of May, where IGN would give exclusive looks into Sonic Frontiers gameplay, and everyone was hyped, seeing how it's Sonic, IGN, and a world premiere. There's an 80% chance of humiliation and a 20% chance of fulfillment. Yeah, we got other shit. Seeing the first IGN gameplay of Frontiers gave me a feeling of emptiness. Never have I seen a Sonic trailer made me question what I was supposed to feel. Whoever played this was just walking, missing enemies, walking. Like, this is Sonic. You go fast, or at least do something quick. This trailer did not give a good light to Frontiers in the public, and what came next was just utter embarrassment on social media. The next trailer did lift my hopes up, as they showed the combat for the game. I'll just summarize and say that my thoughts on watching the next few trailers and gameplay videos were a mix of much needed excitement with the new ideas they shown with the combat, supersonic, etc., and a bit of caution since this game didn't really do anything big to get me truly excited for it, until possibly the last trailer, where they revealed everything this game had to offer. Which is really saying something how Sega can get me hyped for a game a week before it releases after a full year full of trailers. Takashi Iizuka claimed that the game would be the first open zone game, not open world, open zone, because it's like if you're running in the Sonic zone, but more open, which is their little quirky thing I adore they have going forward with this game. So the open world is to be filled with Sonic elements. Frontiers arrived on November 8th, a day too close to God of War Ragnarok, and this was Sonic Team's chance to wow me. Let's see how they did. The game's story doesn't start with the game itself, but actually two prequel stories in the form of a comic and the YouTube animation, Sonic Frontiers Convergence and Divergence. Having these stories is a nice addition, but I wish they were part of the game as unlockables like the Mania animations and Origins. The story does work without them, which is a step up from Forces and Lost World, because both of those games' comics gave interesting backstories to Infinite and Zavok that aren't included in the game at all. Which kind of makes them seem like an afterthought. A backstory should not be an afterthought. Just so you know. Hopefully they put in once the ZLZ releases, but for now, these seem like cool additions to the story that some fans might miss out on. Heck, the only way to see the Lost World prequel is searching deep online or buying the Halloween Fest comic, and the Forces comics are on Twitter. But those are the other games and not Frontiers, so let's get a quick look at Divergence. Knuckles goes exploring on Sky Sanctuary, being led by Tikal, and immediately reminded me of the Sonic Adventure days with this compelling monologue. I had the feeling that Tikal wouldn't be in the game even as a small cameo, because that's kind of asking a lot from Sega nowadays outside of mobile games. But it was nice to have this small appearance. Knuckles finds a mask of a Coco on the way and finds some type of gear that causes him to get sucked through a portal through a different place. This part right here is the highlight of the animation, where Knuckles goes absolute shift rock on the enemies and probably makes it the best animation the Sonic channel put on YouTube. And I think I speak for everyone when I say we want a whole Sonic show or anime that looks like this. Please, Sega, please. Anyways, a mysterious girl shows up and imprisons Knuckles without question. Knuckles was literally taking a stroll on this turf, went to unknown territory by accident, then gets incarcerated. Now I understand why people call him the black character of this franchise. The next prologue is Sonic Frontier Convergence that was released on Twitter, consisting of 2 parts of 4 pages. Even though they could have released the full thing in one day instead of hyping us for 4 pages of content. Seriously, I feel like a peasant when I'm asking for content sometimes in this franchise. In this comic, Sonic, Tails, and Amy fight a decoy Eggman that spouts out adventure references, Lord help me, and realizes that Eggman is at the Starfall Islands playing something. The Chaos Emeralds apparently gathered there, and just as I'm typing this script out, I realize this is a continuation of one of the Tails 2 videos. Tails explains this island was home to a lost civilization, get in line, and they head there for adventure. At least he explains the setting this time rather than just saying, "Wow, it's the Lost Hex," and nothing else. Also, it's cool that they brought along Amy as a 3rd member, diversifying the group a bit other than just Sonic and Tails. Eggman hatches a plan of using the Ancients' technology to control with this artificial intelligence program, and also makes a little bit of foreshadowing towards wanting one of his creations to impress him after Orbot and Cubot's failures. Also, this is the only time you're going to see Orbot and Cubot in the story. It'll be nice to see them interact, given good dialogue from Ian Flynn. But I guess they're just not in this game. This is where the prologue weaves into the main story of the game, Sonic Frontiers. And this is where the story actually begins. The story starts off with Eggman in the forest that made me think I was playing Slenderman for a second, as he begins trying to hack into the Ancients' technology. But just like Knuckles, he gets sucked into a portal leading to a mysterious place. Never trust rock walls, Eggman. Rock walls. Yeah, rock walls. Whatever. Sonic and the gang head to the Starfall Islands, how exciting, when suddenly they get sucked into a portal Sonic Rush Adventure style. And I'm really hoping Tails didn't crash the tornado for like the 8th time right now. Sonic ends up in Green Hill, looks more like Cyber Hill now! Yes, the first level is Green Hill Zone again, but I'm honestly numb to it because Sega probably trying to make it the staple of the franchise right now, with it being the popular first level everyone knows. Hopefully I won't regret making that statement. Hopefully. The level resembles a boost level from Sonic Unleashed, Colors, Gens, and Forces, with the only difference being the right trigger as the boost button. It also resembles a familiar level for some reason. Well, we'll get back to that later. Sonic escapes to Kronos Island and is told by a mysterious voice that he's done the impossible. Kinda funny that the hardest thing seen by an entity is running through Green Hill Zone, something Sonic's been doing for years. But I'll let it slide because a normal human being like me wouldn't make 10 inches through those loops. Sonic is left to explore the island, and this is where the game truly begins. The game is centered around combat with a little bit of speed, and its main mechanic is the Psy-Loop, where you leave a trail of blue and pink aura and circle around objects to do damage or activate puzzles. It basically does whatever it wants, and you're going to be using it a lot in this game. I already know a lot of y'all be drawing dicks with it. The first mini-boss or guardian you come across is Ninja. Please do a Fortnite collab, Sega. And it doesn't teach you much other than using the X or square to punch, and I wish they taught you how to dodge here. On the other hand, Tower is a good mini-boss to go against for learning how to time side loops and dodging. Guardians drop portal gears, to portals that lead into cyberspace, so collecting is a mandatory task. There's also a training simulator before you get into cyberspace to kill some time. You can chain combos and do these little missions where, and I'm very sure of this, you'll only get the highest amount of stars because they give you longer missions to do in a short amount of time when you unlock more skills. So you probably need to grind out to like, 8 stars in the beginning? That's what I did in my normal playthrough. Here you're probably just jumping 3 times or moving the camera. And now we get into cyberspace. Alright, before I talk about all of cyberspace, I'll just say that it's a no-brainer that 1-2 is the hardest cyberspace stage. And while most people like it because it's difficult, I kind of have mixed opinions with how it's handled. Now, usually with Sonic games, S ranking can either range from finishing levels fast but in a stylish way, where you gain a lot of points, like Sonic Adventure 2 and Unleashed, or just simply being a level fast without dying, like Gens and Forces. Here, you have to beat the level under a certain time, which seems like an easy task for pro elite S ranking Sonic gamer like me, but what went from one try went to around 20 tries for me. The stage is difficult, but for the wrong reasons for me. To beat the stage in the fastest time, you have to speedrun the level by skipping many sections, hoops, and avoiding springs, which does teach you how to speedrun with those objects, I will admit, but I honestly don't see the point of them having those in the level in the first place. It's not bad per se, just very different from what Sonic is used to. And it stands out because no other level in cyberspace incorporates this type of gameplay at all. It's cool to play this level once you S-rank it because you get the hang of speedrunning it, just like some of Sonic Unleashed levels, but playing it for the first few times might confuse players how to approach it. It's not likely in Sonic levels where hoops and springs are your obstacles to speedrunning or S-ranking. As for the rest of cyberspace, it's definitely a mixed bag and probably the worst aspect of the game besides the puzzles. Sonic's controls in cyberspace is also why I'm iffy on 1-2. Never in a Sonic game have I felt so slow with Sonic's normal running speed. It feels like he's being weighted down by an anchor or taking a light stroll while pretending to Naruto run. Sonic's run should feel natural. In Forces, it felt like he was at his running speed immediately without any startup, which felt weird. And Frontiers does the opposite by making him not have any startup or top running speed at all. And I know these are boost levels, like previous boost games, where you have to boost to beat the level quick, but most of the time Sonic just immediately stops boosting when you need to jump to another platform. And constantly pressing the boost trigger every few seconds is worse than doing that and holding the boost in the previous games. Hell, I even feel slower without dash panels when I'm boosting, and that's way different from how I felt in Forces. Air boosting is more free-flowing than it was in Forces, but I still think it's worse here because some factors may not let you air boost twice, like hitting a spring and not having the chance to do it again, resulting you to having to use the stomp ability a lot. And I hate forgetting when I have to do that because air boosting should not be restricted at all. And it's quite a shame too because Sonic has a default setting in cyberspace, yet in the open zone you can control how fast Sonic can run, his starting speed, boost, and much more. So why make the default so slow here? It certainly works without a faster speed, but why be so restrictive? I can't believe I'm saying this, but they managed to downgrade from Forces somehow. Only at Sega. Also, a little side note, the speed sometimes resets when it goes on lower than what I originally set on certain occasions, and I don't know why. When I did my second playthrough on normal mode, it took me like 8 hours to beat because I was so slow, and I wondered why the hell am I moving so slow? Until I checked around the last island that the game had put itself at 0 speed. I don't know why. No wonder I thought the drop dash was useful this time around. My boost was set to Sonic Labyrinth mode. I wonder if it was because I set it to normal mode and action mode. But anyways, back to cyberspace. A debate among the community that gives it this mixed reception is that it copies the level design of older levels. Nothing new, just a one-to-one copy. Now, there's two ways you can look at this. One, you could say that's an unnecessary addition to the game if most of the levels are the exact same levels from previous games, but nothing new added, or no changes in them. Or two, you could say that since cyberspace is only a small portion of the game, and works as special stages, then you shouldn't worry about old levels being reused. As for my stance, I am a bit mixed. It's fun playing old levels with the new Hedgehog engine too, and seeing how levels from Sonic Adventure 2, Gens, and Unleashed would look and play with Frontiers Modern Sonic and boost gameplay. But at the same time, it's disappointing to not have changed much for these levels at all. or have certain pieces removed because it would give too much time to replicate things in the new engine. Because you see, the appeal of Generations, and especially Sonic Mania, was seeing old levels again but having cool new ideas put into them. There's a reason why modern Green Hill Zone is distinct from classic Green Hill Zone, with this huge fish set piece, and how Mania Green Hill mixes every old act and Palm Tree Panic together for Act 1, and makes a new cave setting with zip lines for Act 2. There's something new to be enjoyed there. Most of the cyberspace levels were easy to 100% through because of familiar level design, regardless of how fun some were to play. And I know a lot of Sonic fans try to excuse this because Izuka said these levels are borrowed from Sonic's memories and are jumbled a bit. But that's just an excuse of using old levels that don't really matter in this game, if it doesn't apply to the story at all. And because they only mention this in one side story cutscene on the last island that you could totally miss, it just seems like a poor excuse to put them in. Hell, this whole plot point was already done in Generations, so why do it again? Another excuse is that the team reused levels because they wanted to focus more on the open zone, and they just simply don't care much about designing boost levels, which I could clearly see. And that's not necessarily a bad thing if they wanted to have enough levels for enjoyment and cut corners. But it's jarring to have nothing new implemented into levels that last like 1 minute or less. It doesn't help either that there's only 4 level settings, and the ones they used are from Generations, and you guessed it, they're Green Hill Zone, Chemical Plant Zone, and Sky Sanctuary. It's hilarious how many times we've seen these levels been used in this past decade, and I'm not even angry. I give it a pass in Forces since they tried to do something different with the war-torn aesthetic, but not to its fullest potential. Here we've seen Green Hill and Chemical Plant together in Generations, Mania, Lego Dimensions, and Forces. But Blazing Gora, Sky Sanctuary wasn't reused besides Generations. It's very weird to see these old levels be mixed with the art of these 3. The only good thing coming from it is recognizing that what you're playing, like, oh, that's Radical Highway, or oh, that's Rooftop Run Act 2, oh god. The only new settings are the city levels, and most have completely original level design. It's a nice setting, but sadly most of the new design city levels get shoved into the last island. They saved the best for last, but let's hope if you enjoy the worst at first. Out of 30 cyberspace levels, only 9 of them are original. Some do have extra stuff added, like 3-4 being Windmill at Act 3 with lasers, but that's pretty much it. They should have done more things like that. The music for cyberspace, I will say, is one of the highlights of this game, and probably the best music next to Supersonic themes. They incorporate EDM, dubstep, brostep, techno, and vocals from Forces that really encapsulate cyberspace as a whole. Some are pretty in quality, some are good, and some are absolute bangers. Oh my gosh. When I heard the OST for these stages, my mind couldn't stop thinking about how some songs are sound fan made, like Geometry Dash or even Fall Guys of all things. All in all, Tomoyo Otani, Rintaro Sama, Kenji Minzuno, and Keno Noguni, I hope I'm saying that right, did an amazing job. Cyberspace is a mixed bag, ranging from fun speed levels to pretty average levels and horrible controls, but back to the open zone. Back in the open world, Sonic frees Amy from captivity with heart tokens, special memory tokens they need to progress through the game and activate cutscenes. Some weird energy gets put into him and he goes out scouting to find Tails. The animation in the cutscenes are a step up from Forces, but they still have a lot to improve. These characters don't feel as stiff as in Forces. They often move fluidly with their movements, yet sometimes they still feel stiff, especially in dialogue cutscenes where they probably talk and do one pose like the hand on the hip or crossing arms. Also, I don't like how Sonic emotes with his eyelids, and the model is the same as Forces, except more blue, thank god. I'm not a fan of light blue Sonic, by the way. And if you're a Sonic fan on Twitter, you know we had that stupid ass debate about quills. I don't even want to remember. I'll just say I prefer the long quills of Sonic and how they flow than the current version. I like the model best in Runners, and it's still animated good in Frontiers, but it just makes me wish we got long quills instead, not gonna lie. The voice acting in this game is also pretty good. Frontiers has a somber story, so the approach Roger Craig Smith, the current voice of Sonic, goes for Sonic is something more mature and often concerned for his friends. It took some getting used to because Sonic sounds way too sad for my taste, but it's still done pretty good. Just needs a bit more attitude and snarkiness when it's appropriate. Like when he's interacting with Knuckles, those scenes are pretty good. He does have good mature moments confronting Tails, Sage, and Amy. Cindy Robinson does well as Amy, though most of the time when she's distraught, it doesn't really sound like I'm listening to Amy Rose, just Cindy Robinson trying to do Amy Rose. Like I'm listening to a voice actor, but not the cartoon character, if you catch my drift. Tails, come on now. Colleen always kills it. If she's in the Sonic movies, then it's an instant W. Knuckles is voiced by Dave B. Mitchell, and he sounds decent here. Like before in Team Sonic Racing, it just sounds like he's trying to do a Travis Willingham impression, just like how Travis almost sounded like Dan Green in his beginnings. Still a good job though. The writing for Dr. Eggman tries to make him feel like a human character, and Mike Pollock adds a spin that makes him seem like a calm, evil genius with knowledge of his surroundings, rather than just a villain that's half silly, half brooding. Like somewhat of a bubbling buffoon, but more evil. Most of his collected nature comes when talking to Sage, so I really like how Mike Pollock portrays him here. Sage is literally Rei Ayanami in voice actor form and in design too, so you can't go wrong anywhere. I also really like Evangelion, so that's an instant W. When exploring the islands, there's a simple roadmap that has to be followed. Collect Poro Gears from being enemies, use those gears to enter cyberspace to get keys that unlock Chaos Emerald vaults. Gears, keys, emeralds with heart tokens. As simple as that. To get these Poro Gears, you have to defeat enemies and some get stronger as you journey through. This is where the Hermit Cocoa comes into your upgrade for your attack and defense, if you collected red and blue seeds enemies drop, or by finishing puzzles. You can go all the way up to level 99, which I saved for the last island for achievements. I got 40 attack and 37 defense at the end of Chaos Island. You can also trade rings for speed and vice versa. And 400 rings is good enough, honestly. The more speeds you have, the faster you level up, which is something I wish I could say for the bane of my existence. Elder Cocoa upgrades your ring count or speed if you collect more Cocoa hidden through the island. About 15 per one level. The reason everyone hates him is because it takes like 50 years to go up one level. You can't go up by multiple levels, unlike Hermit Coco. And every time you level up, he says the same dialogue, and it takes forever to skip. The fact that you have to do this 196 times just to get an achievement is like, bro, what? Anyways, another thing you're going to have to do when navigating is solve puzzles to unlock more paths on this map. This game's puzzles are laughably, and I mean laughably, easy and boring. If you're 100%ing the game, you're probably gonna get tired by the end of Ares or Chaos Island solving these puzzles, because 90% of the time, they're pretty much first grade puzzles like push the ball into hoops, solve this brain search puzzle, you have 30 seconds to parry a ball once, stop on these 3 buttons, you have 1 minute to parry the ball 3 times, you have 65 seconds to sidestep 15 times, you have 70 seconds to parry a ball 3 times. Holy moly, they did not have to give so much time towards these missions that you can do in 20 seconds. Even if you don't need to do every mission, do you know how many times I found a puzzle on my normal playthrough that ended up being that stupid ass Rise of Lyric tile puzzle? Like, back to back, is that Sonic Rush reference? Like, back to back, I kept doing these. It's no secret that these puzzles needed more depth. The only ones that seemed challenging were ones where you had to run up to a place under a time limit. Ones where you had to build blocks in a certain order, and ones where you had to push a ball through a certain hoop. That's all the difficult ones I can think of. There's some that can only be done at nights, but they're not really unique if there are variants of the same mission that can be done in the day. The skill tree is filled with useful moves that you can use on your adventure as well. Phantom Rush activates when your combo meter is maxed out, and Sonic punches fast like he's in Dragon Ball. Sonic Boom does energy attacks from Sonic's leg, which makes me wish an attack called Sonic Boom was used for Sonic Speed, but whatever. Air tricks you can use to gain more skill points like Sonic Rush. Wild Rush took me a while to understand. I thought you had to sidestep in the air and not the ground with my dumb ass. Sonic moves back and then zigzags to the enemy. Wouldn't say it's that useful if you can parry your dodge. Stomp, stomp. All combo I didn't use till the last island because I wanted to do everything manually, and damage would be reduced as well. A quick side loop is very useful on enemies that shield themselves, and is way better than just maxing X. That looks like a homing shot! I'm sorry. Sometimes I accidentally activate this when I'm trying to punch in the air. Loop kicks are pretty useless. Spin Slash does a huge amount of damage as you circle the enemy. There are 3 unlockables you get when you save your friends. Grand Slam is just a spin dash, Cyclone Kick is just a spin slash, and Cross Slash is just a moving Sonic Boom. I'm now realizing how unneeded some of these are. All in all, the ones that are useful make it so that this game isn't button mash heavy. I often just press random buttons or accidentally activate a wrong one, but most of the time, I'm thinking about how I approach enemies. When to activate the Phantom Rush or evade. Sonic Unleashed had a lot of moves, but the thing wrong with that game is how some of the moves aren't necessarily needed, and more so on the problems of most enemies being taken down by the same attacks. My playthroughs of Unleashed only really consist of heavy attacks, to be honest. Like I said, Frontiers does have the same problem with useless attacks, but to a lesser degree. You unlock all of them by the second island. The bosses in this game are also a highlight with how unique each one is to take down. Ashura can be run up to through blue boost and dodging red hoops, or alternatively hitting the foot when open, and it gets progressively harder each time. Squid... I like how Squid is also a meme in the Sonic community too. Squid is terminal velocity as a boss, and if you don't have enough rings or speed to take down the boss, it's probably gonna take way more than a minute to beat. If you're having trouble, just side loop constantly to get infinite boosts and more rings. An interesting way to cheat the game. It's fun dodging the lasers and then finding the boss when caught up. Then the big man shows up. Giganto, or Giganto, or Giganto, or whatever. Sonic encounters a Titan activated by Sage and goes into a QTE cutscene where you can't beat Giganto, whatever, for the sake of the story, and Sonic gets thrown into a mountain. After a huge bass beating, Sonic realizes he needs the best plot device, the Chaos Emeralds. Good time to bring them back since they haven't been important since Sonic Generations. Sonic helps Amy with the Coco that's trying to express her feelings, even though Sonic wants to haul ass and find Tails first. You have to guide the children of the Coco back into this minigame and avoid these random bombs that appear out of nowhere. I was struggling horribly at first, but we won't talk about that. Look at this cool little dance Sonic does! Ooh, go to Marcus, go to Marcus! Once the Coco finds his once the Coco finds his children, she and one of her children supposedly die? They flow up into the symbol from the trailer that I think is supposed to represent the afterlife or completion. This shocked me at first because I didn't expect such cute little creatures to lose their life. Or have they already lost their lives before? Anyways, Sage appears to tell Sonic that he's screwing shit up, and she acts vague constantly in this game, saying everything is inevitable, which I understand from her point of view, but it gets annoying when she doesn't explain the danger at all with her, "We are only expecting the constant harshness of this universe." Ugh. She also shuts down Amy, which is very hilarious.
Coco reunite with their one true love.
Really, nigga?
Sage heads back to Eggman. It's revealed that she's trying her best to get him out of cyberspace, but every simulation leads to no safe escape. I'm not sure how it's hard to get through a 2D level when you have a flying ship, Eggman, but you do you. Also, it's inferred Eggman created Sage instead of told to us, and I kinda like that visual storytelling. She was red and white in the opening cutscene, so you probably could have figured that out. Sonic gets more worried about Tails and Amy that he wants to leave the Coco to solve their own problems. Amy wondered why Sonic wouldn't help someone. I also thought this and wondered if they were about to fight, but they talked it out, thankfully. Ian Flynn is doing an excellent job with this dialogue, I see. Sonic and Amy get trapped in a vision right after, and see the Coco entrapped in aliens that sort of resemble chaos. Once she finds her love, they both die in an explosion, and once again, I was not expecting this to happen in the Sonic game. Again. It did feel kinda rushed since we didn't get attached to the Coco, yet the scene after wraps the arc perfectly, with Amy wanting to share the love with the world. Death hasn't been taken seriously in the Sonic game for years, so that's probably why it felt jarring to me to see Amy talk like she saw someone die, because she did! After looking at it again, I could say it was well executed. Speaking of execution, Big the Cats! Yeah, I don't know what that transition was, but Big the Cat is here with the fishing minigame. It's pretty easy and kinda disappointing since you're only pointing and pressing, and no matter where you throw a line, you'll always get fish. There's no difficulty or depth, bazinga, unlike Sonic Adventure, but if you're looking just to get items and tokens quickly, then this is an understandable option. You can earn tokens from fishing and trade them in Big's Market for items such as seeds, cocos, egg memos, Chaos Emerald keys, and gold tickets that are honestly useless because you already get a lot of tokens. You can also get scrolls that activate fast travel to Elder Cocos, and I honestly used those immediately because I didn't feel like boosting on rails the puzzles activated, or running in general, something that you shouldn't feel in the Sonic game. Fishing can get you some wild catches, ranging from regular fish to a goalpost to a freaking alligator. You can get around the full game. You can get around the full game by just fishing, and that's honestly wild. I basically got to level 99 for everything by buying so many seeds and Coco on the last island. You can get a lot of tokens and not have to search for Coco or Chaos Keys at all. You can alternatively do this cooking challenge in the Monster Hunter DLC if you're into that. All in all, please don't nerf Big. After doing a very confusing puzzle that would take me 4 minutes, Final Egg is still worse to be honest, I unlocked the path to the final emerald, which lies on top of Giganto's head. One swipe, and it's frontierin' time.
I'm hanging on to the other side. I won't give up till the end of me.
I've said the boss fights were amazing, but holy shit! The Super Sonic fights in Sonic Frontiers are immaculate. You have to use your moves and parry in time to deal damage. The song that plays is Undefeatable, which I have to admit is S tier. It kinda sounds like a generic metal song that was written by a fan, but it's done so well that I can't even complain. Out of all 3D Super Sonic fights, I don't think anything comes close except maybe Sonic Adventure 2. It's definitely the one where you have to put the most work in and button mashing. Sonic defeats the Titan and gets a vision of Coco's fates. Amy isn't freed from her cyber state, and Sonic heads to Ares Island for help. As a result, I think Kronos Island is a good start to the game and shows the game's mechanics very well, along with a mysterious story and a very, very banger ending. It does take a short time because some reason, the pre-ordered DLC instantly gives you 40 tokens and more portal gears, and more portal gears, and I don't like these rewards. But hey, I get these sweet Tims. The game is pretty polished, and I didn't face a single glitch except this. After that island, the game sat an 8 out of 10 for me. Really great. Let's hope it keeps it up. Ares Island is a desert landscape full of ruins, rocks, and other desert things. I'd gladly say that Ares Island is the best island and where the game peaks. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is up to you. It's bad. I can tell the team went all out with Ares Island. With its long canyons, mountains, flowing terrain, lots of rails, do I tell ya, and even a secret underground cave that you can find if you search hard enough. Isn't all that, since there isn't much underground because besides enemies and more rails. I wish there was an underwater section at least, but it does well enough to lead to a fishing port on more missions. I'd say it's probably the only time I felt surprised discovering something when exploring in this game. There's also a ton of tokens on this island. I think it's the one with the most tokens actually. I 100%ed the game and unlocked every side story, and there's still so much tokens to be collected here that I thought they kinda overdid it with the placements. Another problem with this game, I'll mention again when I'm finished as well, is that the memory tokens aren't mandatory for 100% completion. And when I see all these tokens left on the map, it leaves yearning for exploration in an open world. I mean open zone. It leaves a lot to be desired from the core appeal of open zone games. Hey, at least this is Kishimoto's favorite island, so yeah, I have to agree with him there. When you start exploring the island, nearly 20 seconds you're going to notice a lot, and I mean a lot, of poppin'. Kronos Island did have some of this, but not to the extent to where it's noticeable and slightly hindering my gameplay. Some platforms and shadows that you need to traverse on and collect items are invisible from like 2 inches away. And what's worse is that there's no fade-in effect other open zone games used to make the pop-in look less jarring. It can get really annoying looking at random objects that appear out of nowhere when they're so close to you. It's giving Sonic 06 vibes. The dialogue cutscenes also have this problem of pop-in, although it doesn't bother me that much. Sonic breaks Knuckles out of his cage and both explain how they got here and how they're gonna get off the island, while also making some weird, suggestive faces. The animators knew what they were doing. Don't give me that tone. Ares Island is based off of Ares, the god of war, and this island reflects war with its guardians. The guardians of this island are unique but take way longer to beat than in Kronos. Strider has a banger song and requires to speed through these rail rings to get onto a platform to fight him. There are energy blasts on the rail that I wish you could avoid easily, but you have to be slow because some may switch rails unknowingly. Shark is mostly quick time events where you have to move left and right to dodge obstacles and beat it when it's on the ground. The frustrating part is not doing enough damage and having to do the tail riding section again, especially when the shark has like 1 health and gets away. Tank is honestly my least favorite guardian to fight, because well, it's a tank, of course, it's hard to damage it. The tornado part is the worst section because I can't see where Sonic is, and before you know it, boom, it comes spinning right at you and kills you. Repeat it 3 times. Sumo is the best boss on this island, and you're put into a ring where you have to push the robot into electricity, Zero style. It has this neat reference to the Sonic movie as well, if you didn't know that. Screw those enemies. Screw those enemies that steal emeralds. Screw those enemies that steal emeralds. The Titan stage activates Wyvern, and you're put into this fun yet easy running section, dodging missiles on the way. Sonic takes cover between 2 rocks, how safe, and Sage warns that if Sonic comes around there,
This way you will get clapped.
Sonic does come around as Sage is about to hurt him, but then Knuckles awkwardly slides it in to protect him. Sonic stops Knuckles from attacking, thinking she's protecting someone, and then she disappears. You play this mini-game helping Knuckles guide these soldier Cocos away from Tyra crushing them, and thankfully it's easier than the Annie mission. Knuckles witnesses the Cocos get absolutely demolished and honors their sacrifice. I can totally see Knuckles doing that as a person whose race was all about war. During this time, Sage ponders if Sonic and Eggman could work together to leave cyberspace since Eggman sees him as a viable rival. But Eggman kinda disagrees with that. Another minigame ensues, and this one is a variation of the Amy mission, but worse because each bomb blinds her vision with a sandstorm. Certainly it took me many tries. Sun Towers appear to assault the Coco's bunker, and Knuckles has this funny-ass vision back to Sonic 3 and Knuckles that I don't understand. Like, I get the bunker is supposed to represent ruins on Angel Island, but the callback to where he punched Super Sonic doesn't look like the area they're in the slightest. Unless if the thing inside is supposed to be it, but they don't explain either way. They could have used a shot of Lava Reef, Hidden Palace, or Marble Garden Zone, because those ruins most certainly look close to the altar, or places holding the Master Emerald. Though it's still charming to see a screenshot, and there's a lot more references to come, do I tell you. Heck, Sonic even mentioned Amy doing tarot cards, and while this is a deep cut reference, she hasn't done anything related to that since Sonic CD in 1993, her first game. Though to be fair, Sonic Origins did mention it, but whatever. Anyways, Knuckles and Sonic talk to each other about how Knuckles barely leaves his island, and how he should once he gets back to normal. This is very weird since Knuckles has left Angel Island many times before. Sonic Heroes, Sonic Riders, Sonic Riders Zero Gravity, Sonic Free Riders, Sonic 06, Sonic Lost World. I guess you can say he left just to fight Eggman, but they don't give that reasoning. And there are games where it's just Sonic and Tails who fight Eggman. At least Frontiers is probably setting something up and explaining Knuckles leaving the island. Sage overhears this and is humbled by Sonic's courage, but ignores it right after. I'm going to mention one mechanic here that affects gameplay: Starfall. Every few nights, certain stars fall from the sky, and you can collect star bits to spin a roulette that gives you tokens or Coco. I was honestly confused about what Starfall did, mostly because I found it unnecessary. Not only that, the roulette screen is so huge that it blocks my field of vision, and I can't see what I'm doing. It sucks when you're doing missions or exploring terrain with bottomless pits, and this huge ass thing is in front of the screen. You don't know how long the night will last, which makes things worse since it only occurs at night. Anyways, the final Chaos Emerald is on Wyvern's head, and it's the only boss to have a first phase. You run across a continuous platform like the Squid Fight, and try to get onto the Wyvern. It's a fun set piece. I just wish Sonic felt a bit faster with the boosts, though to be fair, the faster he is in the night, the faster he is in the sky, the more likely he is to fall off. Sonic snags the emerald and the battle begins. Breakthrough All is a great song and is the least talked about among the vocal songs as of this recording. It needs one more verse to make it as long as the other songs, to be honest. As for the fight itself, it takes a while to learn what's going on, which is a hate or love it thing in video games. You have to parry missiles back at the Wyvern as well as his attacks, but this is made extremely easy if you learn that you can parry by holding the triggers and not by pressing like in some other games, like Dragon Ball FighterZ or Cuphead. I wouldn't have noticed this if someone hadn't told me, but I'm welcome to it because I honestly suck at timing in other games. You're not able to use any of your skills, just smash X or square. It's a bit of a downgrade because of that. There could have been the use of the skills to attack the tentacle part of the body rather than button mashing till he dies. The QTEs and saying where you fly around the island make up for some of it. It's cool seeing the skybox change as you fight the Wyvern. Once he's defeated, a quick mention of Super Knuckles is brought. He is not coming back, by the way. Sonic heads to Chaos Island. The game right now is almost an 8, kind of around 7.8 because of the fact I was 100% in the game, and they had all these tokens around that aren't mandatory for an achievement. If Ares was the peak of the game, there must always be a fall off. And boy, does it fall off. Chaos Island is weird. For the setting and colors of the island, it looks and feels drab all around. Gray isn't my favorite color. In fact, if you make the whole island just gray with a hint of red, then it's instantly going to be the worst looking island, and from my perspective. Everything is just bland, the volcano is just there, there isn't really much to do near the volcano, just only a few platforms near it. Kind of a wasted opportunity. Only thing standing out is that one pond section that reminds me of World's Edge from Apex. The island is also criticized for having a lot of 2D sections. Now, thing about 2D sections, I don't hate 2D sections in modern Sonic games. If they still keep the pace and speed and enjoyment going like Unleashed and Generations and even Forces. 2D sections that feel slow and blocky aren't the ones I don't like the extra acts in Sonic Colors. As for Frontiers, I'm not really fond of it. Most sections seem very unnecessary because they can work in 3D. Sonic speed kind of feels restricted when there's a lot of platforming required. That almost feels like cyberspace. Feels like there's no sense of the M word. There's also signs that used to give you tokens or seeds in the previous islands that end up unlocking springs or dash panels here, and they are very unnecessary. They usually put these objects like 5 inches away from the path they want you to head towards, and it feels awkward side looping around something that takes me somewhere where I could just simply walk to it. You really have to be lost if you can't find your way through the paths in front of you. The island is hard to navigate because there are different islands blocked off by these invisible walls, and you have to follow the story to activate them. Sucks since I thought I could use my M word to get through the other islands or use a bird to fly, but sadly the game doesn't allow you to do that. At this point, exploring in this game kinda got boring, if it was mostly rails and hoops with the occasional air trick. Just holding the boost button on rails and going through 2D sections is immensely disappointing, and I wish the game was built more on you know what, I'm just gonna say it. Momentum. That's the word. That's the word I hate so much. If there are places that could be implemented well, like the top of the mountain that pushes you back from reaching it, or unless you have glitch techniques or whatever. Guardians on this island are a fortress, which takes too much damage for a large ship, but their camera switches and rail grinding are fun, and Spider, which has a cool attack section and skydiving moment, as well as the craziest music switch up. Oh my gosh. Back with the story, Sonic frees Tails but gets infected by cyber energy, and both start exploring the island. They get back to another flashback portal that suddenly has a change of art style. I don't know if it was a stylistic change or there for budget constraints. Chaos Island gets demolished by lasers by a mysterious enemy we have yet to know of. Heck, those lasers were as strong as Dark Gaia. Okay, you know what? Some of these references to older games are getting redundant. I get why some people may be alright with them because a majority are within side stories and the series hasn't mentioned plot points from other games since Generations. Oh wait, that was 2 games ago, never mind. Well, if we exclude Generations, then Chao the Hedgehog is the last game that references past events. And with how some of these new references are written, I just don't see the importance of mentioning them, like, oh wow, those lasers are as strong as Dark Gaia. Yeah, so what? Oh wow, these are like the lasers on the egg carrier in the Ark. My guy, there are more lasers in this series you should be worried about. Most of these references come off as, hey, remember that thing in that one game that we did? We're so good at remembering past events. So that was a thing.
So, that was a thing.
No way.
Those sure are words you said just now.
Well, that just happened. I don't really understand mentioning past games like this if they don't affect the story. We didn't need Sonic to mention the world breaking in Unleashed and Forces if it doesn't affect the story. We didn't need to hear about how we had a pirate adventure with Marine and Lost World if it doesn't affect the story. And we don't need to hear about Sonic kissing Elise ever again. Again, references like the ones I mentioned can be said for a quick nod to the fanbase that keeps up with their lore, but the way Frontiers just shoves it down your throat is not how you do callbacks. There are good references I will mention soon, so don't worry. After being introduced to the Knight, this island's titan, in a very slow chase level, Sonic and Tails find a Mega Death Egg robot from Sonic Forces and try to hack into it. A minigame that acts like Galaga or Touhou ensues, and it's pretty easy here. Surely, if they use this minigame, it'll get harder. Right? Right? Anyways, the robot shoots a laser, opening an underground path to another island holding a Chaos Emerald. I'm guilty of wasting 2 hours exploring rather than doing story missions to unlock this path like a cornball. Like Ares Island, I love going through these underground pathways. I'll admit they're still as basic as ever, and definitely need more rooms and layers other than just 5 enemies per room. Finding the underground section in Ares was more of a treat. Chaos, it's mandatory. Sonic and Tails find a Coco that needs to find mechanical parts for his co-pilot. Another minigame starts where you have to break boxes in order to collect parts while you're above lava. This one's pretty simple, yet has 2 major flaws that make me retry twice. Both flaws equate to I can't see jack shit. I thought when I broke the boxes that the things on the floor were experience points or broken box parts. I don't know why they're so small and not highlighted bright enough for me to know I'm supposed to collect them. As well as the Cocos in the open world, open zone. Punching boxes can be a nuisance when you accidentally homing attack a different one. And the second flaw is the falling platforms not shaking hard enough to indicate that I should avoid them. Does all this add up to skill issues? I don't know. Screw you. The highlight of Chaos Island is definitely Tails' character arc of accepting that he can make mistakes. Tails at the start of the island questions his usefulness to Sonic and doubts he's changed after all this time. There's a side story where he mentions a cyber version of Tails saying that he only follows Sonic. Sage questions why he allies with Sonic, responding with how Sonic is brave and does the right thing. He still thinks about the day Infinite started war, and he somehow lost it after Sonic supposedly died, and he brings a huge bombshell of a question: am I burdened to you, Sonic? All of this leaves Sonic concerned and having to humble Tails with all of his past successes. A great message of everyone can have their low points and it's still a part of life. I love character regression in the media and how Frontiers decide to touch upon Tails not having much high points since Sonic Adventure 2 or Advance. No, this isn't a 2010s problem because many games before Colors had Tails just give exposition or fly his plane. He was just the smart guy of the group, the smart sidekick that just didn't do much. Ignoring how he's been for the past 2 decades and suddenly having him do some cool shit with his gadgets could have worked, but Frontiers is trying to connect with the other games to have continuity, and the best way to have Tails develop now is to mention his most recent setbacks. Thank God he doesn't have that Wii U gamepad in this game. That was the most annoying thing they added in the 2010s. The dialogue they used was a bit too on the nose for me, as if they were catering to a certain group of fans complaining way too much about Tails' character. The whole "I'm wildly inconsistent" is too meta for my taste. Hell, that was probably the most meta line I've heard than the what you guys call the meta era. I don't call it the meta era. I just call it the 2010s preferences. Let's hope the next game will add to this instead of making Tails learn a one-off thing, because oh man, would that hurt the character more than the recent games? Please don't do that, Sonic Team. Please don't hurt this character. A new minigame comes up where Sonic jumps over a bridge and skydives to a different island. Even though when I tried it, I got hit by an invisible wall, but who cares? I sure don't. Fucking cornballs. I hate this mission because of many things. 1, I can't see what types of enemies are spinning and which springs are which, especially in the dark. I'm mentioning this because they made the spring illuminated, yet I still can't see. 2, those damn death egg rings take too long to travel through. 3, some rings take you all the way back above. And 4, it's hard to aim and lock on the thing that you actually want to homing attack. You're supposed to follow the regular wings. You're supposed to follow the regular rings to go. You're supposed to follow the regular rings to not go back above, but do they tell you that? Take a wild fucking guess. Sonic and Tails get the Chaos Emerald, connect the bridges together, and have a touching brotherly moment together as Tails promises to grow in the future. Sage is shocked by this and realizes that being pessimistic about Sonic and his friends' fates wasn't the right way to go about things, and cries at the fact that she isn't able to have a natural, loving family. The emotions cause her to glitch blue and sing a sad song that To be honest, I don't really find very sad. Sorry. Sorry, Sonic fan, sorry. Aside from me thinking that the singing is hilariously bad, the flashbacks that play during the song are even more freaking hilarious when you know the game is trying to make you feel sad for one of the antagonists with scenes of Eggman shunning or yelling at Sage. Like, I could tell Sage was sad during these times, and there is one scene where she protects Eggman from GUN soldiers. Those are just generic helicopters, but W for trying, I guess. But that's literally it. There's too little of actual scenes where she and Eggman converse about family. Too little of me actually feeling an attachment between them. And none of these scenes take place out of that boring cyberspace background. The important beats are there. She mentions Orba and Cuba in one scene, and she saves Eggman in one, tries to please him by attacking Sonic, and questions why they never team up. But I didn't get the feeling of her wanting to be loved by Eggman in most of those scenes. Like, I guess she's disappointed with things not going her way. There's just not much flavor to it. If you only show the important seeds of her and Eggman and don't develop around the two in more smaller scenes, then I'm not gonna feel sad for a character whose flashbacks are her following orders from Eggman and feel like they came out of a parody of how rushed it is. It's like Sonic Team is lining up an applause sign, but instead of applause it says cry. Please cry for me. I want your tears in my bucket. Eggman does show emotions for Sage later in the game, and they're part of really big moments. They could have hinted or shown some of that here to build it up, but alas, missed opportunities should be expected in this series. Okay, maybe I'm being too pessimistic. At least Chaos Island ends up on the strong notes. Here we go. This has to be one of the worst pinball stages I have ever played in a game. Not a Sonic game, just in a game ever. And I don't want to hear all that skill issue crap, or if you're actually good at this stage and got on the first try. This minigame is not good. Ass maybe. Utter poo-poo, if you will. And there are many reasons why it's so horrible. You shouldn't shun people for failing it, because there are actual good pinball players out there that hate this minigame. So, I wrote a whole page on this in my script, so let's just get this through. Let's get through this. Why is the goal for this game 5 million points? Are you insane? That's like 5 minutes worth of pinball. Not good pinball to be exact. And the pinball table is so small that spending a lot of time here just seems so boring. Sonic Adventures pinball was more fleshed out than this, and you could only need 400 rings there. Heck, if you failed, you can easily try again or go through their sewer route to earn more rings. Why does the ball clip through the flippers at times? It doesn't mess me up because I mashed the trigger button very quickly, but that shouldn't be happening at all. Why can't you shake the table or the ball is such a small table? Tilting the ball would help a lot in getting red rings. Most of the minigame is based on luck and praying the shot you put the pinball in doesn't fall out of bounds because you can't control anything. Why? Are you serious? And don't give me that, oh, well, it's an ancient stone table, so you can't really shake it. Nigga! Sonic the Hedgehog video game! Why are the outer drains so easy to fall into? There's bumpers placed awkwardly to make you fall in. Why? Oh wait, I think it's because you can't control anything! Could have sworn there was barriers that push you away from losing the ball if you fall into the drain, but they barely appear unlike other pinball games in previous titles. I don't even know how to activate them here. And the biggest gripe I had that I knew was going to happen is losing the ball because he failed to shoot it inside the portal. I know it's for a spectacle, it makes sense to shoot the ball to the end of the game, but couldn't you just end it there instead of having me find a way to shoot the ball at a specific angle to get into the portal, while at the same time risking my ball to fall into the drain on its own because I can't control it? Holy crap. There shouldn't be this many problems with a pinball minigame. I probably enjoy it on my own and learn the mechanics, but you can't play it outside of story mode, along with Titan bosses, nor play it inside story mode since the pathway gets blocked by lava. As its own thing, it can be fun, but you have to play this every time you want to get into the third Titan boss, which is very annoying. Alright, enough of that depressing mess. Time for a peek!
It's routine time!
The night fight for some reason doesn't give you any rings in its first phase, along with the next tie-in for some reason, and that kind of ticked me off because I died, and I had to fight the boss again when I had like what 100 rings. Kind of weird to stop providing players rings when your last tie-in had a whole section giving them to you, so you have to resort to side looping before the fight starts. Besides that setback, the fight is insane. Damn, I need some water. Besides that setback, this fight is insane. Super Sonic has to fight this giant that looks like Red X, Grimmjow, and Maleface combined, parrying its sword, riding on a saw like it's a destructo disc, shoving the saw into the Titan's face, in the deflecting phase where the game encourages you to learn to attack the Titan, which I love oh so well. Find Your Flame might be my favorite Titan theme next to Undefeatable. It's a cheesy, generic butt rock song that manages to wow me. I thought it sounded like a fan-made song on YouTube, yet it still knocked it out of the park. Tyler Smith comes back from his Infinite days to pair up with the amazing singer Kelly Quinn with his edgy rhymes. Leave it to this dude to turn me into a goth nigga for a day. The fight ends in an outstanding finale that gives me flashbacks to Final Fantasy Sonic, where Sonic picks up a huge sword and slices the Titan in half. Frieza! This game is supposed to be more silent in its way of storytelling, and still has amazing shonen moments like this. Leave it to the Sonic fanbase to make me hate saying the word shonen and momentum. After this, Sonic heads off to Rhea Island. Chaos Island as a whole felt a bit barren and had too many 2D sections, so right now the game is at like a 7.8 out of 10. When I entered Rhea Island, I actually thought I was on Kronos Island until I checked the map, and could you blame me? Rhea Island is sadly literally the same as Kronos, except more forests and lakes that you can run through. But you most likely won't see since the game doesn't focus on those places, and instead takes to the sky as you climb 6 towers and shut them down. I'm not really angry that Rhea Island reused assets from Kronos, and I heard that was originally part of Kronos, along with the other island we'll get to. Because Rhea Island has you complete a different objective rather than just search for memory tokens or do puzzles. I kind of like having to do something different for about 45 minutes. Rhea Island uses these objects to give backstory as you shut down each tower, kind of like a backstory island. This island tests your skills with rail grinding and platforming, and it becomes somewhat challenging as you progress. Obviously, I do think the grinding is simple and very slow. The challenge is mainly trying not to fall off the rails so you don't have to redo this section again, and how fast you time your switching. It isn't a harsh punishment, even when you have pull switches that help you get back to where you were before you fell off. And I don't think I can give a good criticism to wall climbing, because I don't know if I suck at wall running correctly, or if it's just wonky like that. Skill issue? Yeah, skill issue, shut up. The remains of Rhea Island that you don't travel through make me wish that there was at least something done with it, because this looks like the forest that Sonic was running through in the trailers. Maybe for DLC we'll get something, who knows. You can run through them on your own time, but it isn't that interesting. It does remind me of the Sonic 2006 E3 trailer, so that's a plus, I guess. The full backstory given by Rhea Island is that the Ancients harnessed the power of the Chaos Emeralds and engines in order to escape from the threat that's been killing them, and they had left their planet before it got turned into Starkiller Base. The Chaos Emeralds are drawn to Earth because of the Master Emerald. I'm just now realizing this, and took a few rewatches to notice that the Ancients didn't create the Master Emerald. They were the ones that originally had the Chaos Emeralds. Now, I'm not super mad that the Chaos Emeralds are from outer space, and the game says that they're native to the Ancients' homeworld. I just really wanted to be more attached to this alien race other than them just, existing and dying. I was hoping the origins of the Chaos Emeralds to be saved for an important game like Sonic Adventure 3, and have it tied to like Chaos, the Echidnas, and the Ultimate Life Form. There is still a chance of more lore being added to them since we aren't told who exactly created the Chaos Emeralds. But if the game is saying the Ancients are the ones that made the Emeralds, or originally had them, then I'll be pretty disappointed, not gonna lie. I didn't even know these Ancients were the ancestors of the Chao until I saw an egg memos confirming it. I just thought their design just happened to look like chaos, and the aim was just to make them look like aliens. Can't really blame me for the connection if the Chao aren't important to the story, but it is a very cool piece of lore. It's then showed that they created the cyberspace portals in order to store the history and memories of their race, also storing themselves in Coco form. Despite this, the deadly enemy still chased them to Earth, showing that the times that we were fighting throughout the adventure were actually used by the ancients to fight the enemy, and the leader piloting the final titan of Uranus Island sealed the enemy inside of him and trapped himself inside cyberspace. As Sonic is learning all of this, he slowly but surely succumbs to the cyberspace energy and gets trapped in the frozen state, looking like Sonic.exe. I'm sorry I made that comparison, by the way. Sage is humbled by this tenacity, and Tails claims Sonic is stuck between realities. Eggman is hilariously amused by all of this, but his amusement is cut short when the mysterious entity plans to get rid of everyone else. And so here's the moment where the game was building up to. Sonic was struggling to walk in those previous islands, Sage was hinting at his fate, at his demise, and now Sonic is seemingly gone for good. For about 5 seconds. Yep. Sonic is saved immediately by his friends through the power of Kumbaya friendship. How did they do this? Why was this so rushed? Why did the game build up this moment just for it to be done in a matter of seconds? Because we're Sonic heroes, of course! They even try to spice up the scene by having the characters say why they love Sonic so much since they spend time with him on each island. But once again, you can't sell me on the result if I don't have enough time or development to care about it. We don't even know where the characters go, they just disappear until the end of the game. And people are speculating that the DLC will explain this, though we don't know at the time of this recording. So Raya Island, as a small side mission, does well in challenging the player's platforming, gives a great backstory while ending on a disappointing note, and has amazing suspenseful music to go along with it. I didn't say this before, but the music of Ares and Chaos Island I don't really find memorable. Raya has the orchestra blasting in your ears as you climb those towers. So right now the game is sitting at still like a 7.8, 7.7 for me. Now we head to the final island. Wait, is this Kronos Island? This is Kronos Island. No, wait. No way. No way. No fucking way. I had to check the menu to see what this island was called, and surprise, surprise, Uranus Island is the final island, and it looks nearly like Kronos. It looks identical to Kronos. It's exactly Kronos. Raya Island didn't disappoint me. This is the island that disappointed me. The exploration was still fun, and I enjoyed going through the pyramid and the east side. The game for some reason doesn't let you run through the forest, so that's a thing. It's just, I don't expect the final world of a Sonic game to be a grassy field looking like you guessed it, a fan-made what if Sonic was in an open world game. It can definitely work if executed right. Sadly, we already had a grass type island at the beginning of the game, so this right here is probably showing the time and budget problems Sega gave Sonic Team. The only thing I can say is different is the weather giving a foggy vibe that I like. Most of the enemies you face here are variations of old ones. On my normal playthrough, it certainly took a long time to get heart tokens for Sage, to the point where I wanted to side loop and farm my way out. This is the longest island for sure since it has the most collectibles to obtain. My hard mode playthrough took probably 5 hours to beat this island, and it can be done faster if you farm from big fishing spot. The new enemies here are caterpillars where you knock back orbs into it while grinding on 2 rails. It's definitely hard to see which orb you have to knock back because of depth perception problems. Ghost is one that actually really surprised me because it activates when you side loop a certain statue. Really good one on the developers and intriguing my curiosity. You have to chase and attack the ghost down as it drains the rings, and it brings a sense of urgency, especially when you're low on rings. If you have like less than 50 rings at the start, then give up at that point. Master Ninja is a variation of Ninja, and I decided to mention it because it can stop time. That's it. I just thought it was cool. Uranus Island has a great theme with a bit of bass near the end, and once you finish half of it, the main theme of the Starfall Islands plays, and it's extremely beautiful. That song in particular has a theatrical sound to it, and I wish the other songs or the other islands had a similar sound to it. If you listen on Spotify with good headphones, then you'll notice it. You'll notice what I'm talking about. Once you get 6 of the Chaos Emeralds, you have to do the Galaga Ikaruga Bullet Hell Tohu type mission again. Not once, but actually twice on this island. They make it a bit harder, but I don't know if I was just not trying because it took me 2 tries to do it. Why did they put the same mission here on the island twice? Is the game trying to tell me something? Trying to prepare me for something greater and won't disappoint me at all? Nah. Yes, they are. Anyways, Eggman gives Sonic the last emerald and approaches the final boss, Supreme. Oh, I'm sorry, Supreme! Also, the game stops saving once you get this Chaos Emerald, so please, auto-save this. I'll save this moment so you don't have to redo Oranos Island like I did. Now, Supreme was a boss I used to like until I realized that was pretty freaking easy to beat. When I got the boss down to half health in a matter of minutes, I thought I made a mistake of upgrading Sonic's attack level to level 99, or me using all combos near the end. But no, the boss is just really freaking weak. Being the boss is also very weird because there are times where I parry it, and it immediately sends me to a cutscene where I get hit by lasers, so I think, oh, I'm supposed to hit the laser, but no, you're supposed to get hit by the attack so it can put you in the quick time event. That's a pretty weird way to finish off a boss, and once again, they don't tell you you're supposed to do this. Though it would be pretty weird for a hint to be, let the boss kick your ass! There's also some leftover sequences left in the game's code that were removed from the boss where he uses a sniper at you. Overall, this boss is pretty underwhelming. The music is still hype though. I'm Here went from being a song I thought sounded like a fan-made anime song cover made by Nate Wants to Battle, epic foreshadowing, to being a kick-ass main theme. Despite the boss not living up to standards, nothing could prepare me for the absolute disappointment that was the end. So once Supreme is defeated, the mysterious monster goes into space to earn its true form, and Eggman sadly tells Sage to go with Sonic and fight it. The mysterious enemy's true form is a fake moon. How threatening. Now, I'm not even being sarcastic because it's just a moon. I'm just saying we blew up the moon once before in the series, so I'll fucking do it again! The final boss has such a great theme and probably rivals other themes like Colors or Unleashed, and that's the only thing good about this boss. Weep and behold! All those bullet hell missions that we did before were building up to this moment, where you just shoot the hell out of the boss. They were foreshadowing this happening, so we had to play that mission twice in Oranos Island in order to prepare for the true final boss and not be disappointed. Yeah, no, all you guys were doing was just building up to disappointment. The boss can only be played on hard mode, a very weird thing to restrict this behind the difficulty level since most people who play on normal mode won't even know this boss exists. Lucky them though, because this boss is a pain to beat. At times you think you're dodging or shooting, but you instantly die. At times you have to memorize where the lasers will be, so chances are you're not gonna do this first try. The bosses didn't seem too hard at first, but every single chance I had, I struggled to the point where the boss didn't take any damage and just threw everything at me. Making the boss invulnerable at a point where you just have to survive only makes me more impatient to get the fight done with. I was numb to what the end was saying because I was just staying focused on switching and dodging the whole time. I know we had the Colors boss fight reused in Lost World and Forces, but damn. Never thought I would say this, but I would rather play those than play something new and very unfair. It sucks that Frontiers did boss fights so well only to end on a horrible note. At the end of the boss, Sage launches Sonic towards the end in some Gurren Lagann Evangelion anime Gundam type moment, but it doesn't do enough to finish the job. In an act of desperation, Sage sacrifices herself in order to save the world, most notably Eggman. It was expected. If you're a robot or an AI in the Sonic series, chances are, you're gonna die! Sonic returns to his friends and they don't know that the robot who killed herself saved the day. But who cares? We're Sonic heroes! Well, that's not all true. The game does end on a somber note as Eggman looks to the sky. Sad that he lost Sage in the end. A beautiful rendition of Sage's song plays, and that's where Sonic Frontiers ends. A mid-credit scene plays where the crew leaves the islands, and the only notable thing mentioning here is that Amy mentioned 6 as canon? What the hell? Guys, you can't just shallow drop a character from another universe as canon to this universe with no explanation. That's like saying Miles Morales is suddenly a friend of Peter Parker and Earth 616 with no introduction to him. He's just there. It's obvious that Izuka wants to include the IDW comics and Boom into the main canon, simplifying it. I'm alright with that, but you have to introduce these characters rather than just saying their names out of nowhere, bro. There's also a cool ending song by Nate Wasabella as well. that was the epic foreshadowing. I'm glad he's making official music with Sega now. He is such a great singer. He finally made it out of the video game music hood. Vandalized by OK1 Rock plays in the normal mode ending, and at the end it appears that Sage is still alive. So good on you, Sage fans. Your Roa is still alive. Couldn't Eggman just rebuild her? So, what do I think of Frontiers? I was hoping it would be a game that got the open world fully right, rather than just relying on future games fixing or improving the game. The open world was filled to the brim of things to do, such as puzzles, finding Cocos, battling enemies, and collecting tokens. But out of all those things, only finding enemies seemed interesting. Collecting tokens only progresses you through the story, and there's no reward for collecting all of them. No achievement. It gets rid of a lot of the post-game collectathon, and confuses me why there's so much of these things on Ares and Chaos Island once you get past the story beats. There was, like, more than half left on Ares Island once I beat the game. I thought the developers overdid themselves with the placement of these things that you get nothing from. The puzzles, like I said, require first grade level thinking and are very uninteresting. There's little difficulty completing them, and puzzles should make you want to explore more, but here I'm doing them mostly for an achievement. The skill tree and combat are the highlight of this game, and I love how they teach and push you to use different moves. You can just button mash enemies, which takes a while to beat them, and to be honest, if you just button mash, you're kinda boring. But the time they put into making the skill tree was really worth it. Compared to how many moves Unleashed had, I'm glad there's only a few here. The variety of enemies is vast, and the bosses are definitely the highlight of the game, with how creative they were in being each of them, except the end. The final boss really sucked. The story, as much as it tries to be somber and serious, it comes off as basic. They put good interactions between Sonic and the other characters in relation to how they've been the rest of the series, and I hope future games are like that. It just ends with you finding out that the Ancients had died and you have to avenge them by finishing their dreams, and being the final boss in the end. The Sage and Eggman relationship was rushed and not really fleshed out. They throw these sad moments at you when most of the time Eggman is just ordering Sage to get him out of cyberspace. The story is just that. Simple. It's a simple story. The music of this game is both phenomenal and flawed at the same time. The cyberspace music is what I'm listening to the most, and it ranges from amazing EDM to just Geometry Dash or normal dubstep. The island themes are the most disappointing because only Kronos, Rhea, and Oranos are memorable to me. Ares and Chaos, like I said, are very generic, and it's worse that Otani made 7 movements of these themes as well. Kinda overdid it there. Even with the fantastic supersonic themes, the OST as a whole only gets an A tier and not an S tier. The controls are refined in the open world, and it's very cool that you can just adjust the settings for how you want Sonic to move, something that's been a burden in most 3 Sonic games. Cyberspace levels are fun to speedrun, but are still a mess. I wonder why most of the original levels are at the end, and why default settings for cyberspace are Sonic as butchered as ever. Overall, this game seems like it's trying to be an 8 or a 9 out of 10, with a lot of 6 out of 10 mid moments sprinkled in. So, in the end, I sense this game has an aura of 7.5 out of 10. Pretty good. Frontiers isn't bad. It isn't great. The overrating cornballs. It isn't mid. But it's definitely a decent, good game that I wish could have been greater. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk.
Boost your spirit off the ground. I'm a spark that won't go dream.
If you made it through this video, subscribe, follow my Twitch, all that stuff. And thank you. It took 3 months to work on this video. I want to improve on this too. I don't have the best editing software, the best microphone, but I definitely want to look back at this and see how I've improved. So thank you for watching this. Keep blazing.